Questions orales, oral questions.
Oh, hello. Do you have a warrant to be here?
Everyone has an opinion about Canadian federal politics.
WTF.
Here, here.
Hey everyone, quiet down. There's a bulletin on TV.
It's time for a change in this country, my friends. A real change.
Everyone has an opinion about Canadian federal politics.
The one we call Canadians.
But let me ask you, Mr. Prime Minister, will there always be a Canada?
There will always be a Canada.
All right, elbows up. Elbows up.
Hey gang, what's up? Just Aaron right here, Canadian Looney. We have issues in Canada, right? Unless you're completely head in the sand, be aware of this.
Oh yeah.
And now, oral questions, questions orales.
Oral questions, questions orales.
Let's see what's happening in the House of Commons right now. Clown circus at the Sausage Factory. Hey everybody, Aaron here, Canadian Looney. Get your Canadian federal politics right here. We've got a great show lined up. We will slip into question period, which begins on Friday, a few hours early, 3 hours to be precise. But we have some committee meetings that we want to show. These are things that happen outside of question period. They don't just do question period. Well, some of them don't. Anyways, we've got very interesting pieces here with Frank Caputo, Shelley Kirkland. We've got a bunch, and Gary Adesangre is Chipmunk Tiger, and he's going to be the one doing the testifying. Let's get into it. Let's go.
To my questions, so I appreciate that. I'd like to also thank the officials here. Minister, you are here on bills C8 and C12, so I will be asking you about both bills today. Minister...
Excuse me, Mr. Caputo, if I may clarify, my understanding was the first hour was on C8 and the second hour was on C12, but I'm more than glad to, because I don't have the officials here for C12 until the second hour.
We can ask them questions when we need to. I would just like to explore your expertise, your understanding, and your knowledge on both bills organically, if we will. So
that is fine, Mr. Caputo. You have the right to do so. This being said, officials not being here, you may not get the answers that you would be entitled to.
I'm if we could pause the time, please. There was a point of order that was just mentioned. At the end of the day, I'm not looking for answers that officials may give. If I have questions for officials, then I'll ask the officials the questions. Right now, this is my time to ask the minister about what the minister knows about bills C8 and C12. We actually asked for two separate meetings on C8 and C12. We didn't get them, even though the parliamentary secretary committed to them. So I will be asking the minister questions on both bills. So why don't we actually start with one thing that's certainly germane to C8. When was the Foreign Interference Commissioner supposed to be appointed, Minister?
I've indicated this a number of times. They will be appointed in short order. We are finalizing, and we will bring forward a name to colleagues opposite for feedback.
That's not what I asked you, Minister. Again, please answer the questions I ask. When was the Foreign Interference Commissioner supposed to be appointed?
But as I indicated to you, and I've spoken to you a number of times on this, we have been working towards appointing a Foreign Interference Commissioner. I wish this was done much earlier. As you're aware, we're going through a process.
Minister, I asked you a 5-second question. and I should get a 5-second answer because it was supposed to be a date. Okay, this could not be a more clear question, Minister. When was the Foreign Interference Commissioner supposed to be appointed? Just the date, please.
But I'm here to speak about Bill C-8 and Bill C-12. So yeah, I would respectfully ask that you keep to those parameters. If you wish me to come on another matter, I have made myself available.
Apparently, when we do that, we can't actually get it, even if the parliamentary secretary agrees to it. So you say you're not here to talk about foreign interference. Are you saying that Bill C-8, critical infrastructure, protecting our critical infrastructure from foreign adversaries, are you saying that our foreign interference and our foreign registry is not germane to that bill? Am I hearing that right? Let the minister can respond. He can
I hear a
respond.
point of order.
Oui, s'il vous plaît, on est ici pour...
We're here to investigate two very important pieces of legislation, C-8 and C-12. Right now, you were talking about a different subject completely. It is our good fortune to have the minister and his team here with us. I would like us to be able to focus on the bills that are important and have them move forward to see what it is that we need to say or verify regarding these bills. And right now we're wasting time on things that are off topic. Chair, I would like us to come back to the subject of this meeting.
To make sure that there was no time wasted.
On the same point of order, no standing.
I'm sorry,
order.
I'll just finish, please. So I think we all heard the comment. This is a suggestive comment. It's not a real point of order. So I'll turn back to you, Mr. Caputo.
Thank you. We actually, to the Liberals' point, we actually could have been past this if the minister would just tell us the date. Foreign interference is certainly germane to protecting our foreign infrastructure. If we can't agree on this, we can't agree on what day of the week it is, Minister. What date was this supposed to be done? What date was there supposed to have a commissioner appointed? Just the date.
Mr. Caputo, I had indicated that we are working towards the appointment of an interference commissioner.
Mr. Caputo, I'm sorry.
Mr. Caputo, I've answered the question.
I'll have to interrupt both of you.
Like the answer,
Minister and
I will...
Minister, MP. So there are two issues here. First, the topic, which is obviously open to discussion. Second, the overlapping of comments and questions. If we want people to understand the flow of the conversation, including in the other official language, we cannot speak both at the same time. That is making the work of the interpreters impossible. So I would invite everyone to have a fluid, intense conversation if they wish to, but it cannot overlap. Otherwise, I'll have to stop everyone.
Well, foreign interference was pretty darn serious. We had 11 parliamentarians that were suspected, and I asked you for a date, Minister, and you won't even give that to me, to Canadians, on something that's pretty darn serious. If you say you're answering a question to me, and I didn't even ask that question, when all we want to know is this: Canadians expect seriousness on foreign interference, and you as the minister are the one in charge. You're the one appearing here, and you won't even give us a date. And for that, you should be reflective on whether or not you're doing your job, with all due respect, Minister. Let's move on.
Just a point of order, please.
Mr. Caputo is talking about C-70. The agenda was shared with all members. First hour, we are stick with C-8, and second hour, C-12. So I have difficulty to understand why we are discussing now C-70 instead of C-8.
That is, again, an appropriate comment, but it's not a point of order. It's suggestive to others of how they want to use their time. And I'll turn back to you, Mr. Caputo.
Well, we can always rely on the Liberals to try to deflect for a minister that won't give us a date. Mr. Speaker, with all due respect, I haven't interrupted my Liberal colleagues, Mr. Chair, and I would appreciate if they would give me the same courtesy, because we're hearing more from them than we are from the minister. Last time at committee, Minister, when we've been talking a lot about foreign nationals, you said that there were we talked about 30,000 removal orders, and you said, quote, Mr. Caputo, there are 30,000 people who are going through the system and they are going to be removed. They are in queue. We know their addresses, end quote. Now, it turns out, Minister, that there are actually 62,000 or were 62,000 people because your officials told us there were 62,000 and you said that...
Yes, please.
Je pense qu'on va tourner toujours autour du...
I think we're going to be going over and over on the same subject here, Chair. I think it would be important to focus on Bills C8 and C12 and take advantage of the Minister's time here. Our colleagues have been asking to have the Minister here on C8 and C12 for a long time, and here we are again spending time on other subjects. I would like us to stick to C8 for the first hour and C12 for the second. There are two things here. The first is that, in fact, the first hour is on C8. The second is that the chair cannot control the questions and answers asked and given. The members are to use their best judgment to know how to be as relevant as possible. Mr. Caputo.
Point of order so the time doesn't start, please. C12 is directly related to our strong border. The minister was here last time, and we are holding him to account for things he said. I don't know how that's irrelevant, and I've been interrupted 3 times in 4 minutes by the Liberals. I get it. They don't want the minister to speak. They don't want the minister to speak about relevant things. That's not my problem. That is the Liberals' problem. I will carry on. And I'd ask that I could have that question because I have to start it from the top again. Minister, I asked you 62,000 people. You knew about 30,000. So you didn't know about where half of the people were. And you said, we know their addresses. Do you know the addresses of the 32,000 people who are at large without warrant? Just a yes or no, please.
Mr. Caputo, the numbers you're referencing are available on the CBSA website under removals, and I will direct you to there. There are right now removals in progress. There are 30,733. There are individuals that we do have contact with in some form or another. There are currently 32,000 who are in the area wanted who we are seeking to remove.
Again, please answer my question. Do you have addresses for the 32,000 you were seeking to remove as you told us last time? Yes or no?
We do have addresses, Mr. Caputo.
You have addresses for 32,000 people for whom there are warrants? Okay, Minister, the natural question is, if you have addresses for them, why aren't they being arrested right now?
Mr. Caputo, for questions like this, you do need to give me some time to answer these questions, right? So if I could elaborate, yes, we do have addresses. They may not be accurate. The veracity of that is up to the CBSA, and they're working to expedite the removals. As I've indicated in the past, we're on target to remove over 20,000 people this year.
With 32,000, so that should give Canadians great confidence that 12,000 people will be left. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, turning to MP Akan for 6 minutes.
Mr. Chair, and my questions will be based on C8 as per the agenda. So, Minister, some members of the opposition have suggested that Bill C8 could allow the government to suspend an individual's internet access, which has understandably caused confusion and concerns among Canadians. Could you clarify for the committee that what powers the bill provides and whether any provisions in Bill C8 permits the government to restrict or cut off ordinary Canadians' internet service?
To be very clear, C8 does not enable the government to cut off individual internet service. So there are very narrow areas where an individual user may have an unacceptable level of risk, who has a past record, and whose continued access to the internet could have repercussions for the safety and security of our critical infrastructure. In those very limited circumstances, there could be an order for an individual's internet to be halted, and that is in the narrowest of scope. It does not apply to everyone. It applies to those who have a perpetual record of threats to critical infrastructure.
Over to Member Lloyd. You have 5 minutes.
Chair, Minister, last week the Privacy Commissioner testified that this bill is lacking some key privacy safeguards, including inconsistent proportionality tests included in Section 15.2, subsection 3, but not elsewhere in the bill. And there is no requirement for his office to be notified when the communications security establishment, when there's a cyber breach that threatens Canadians' private information. I find that these omissions from the bill concerning. So my first question is, will the officials provide in writing to this committee the reasons why the proportionality test is not included throughout the bill, but only in that one section? And then secondly, to the minister for today, do you believe that the Privacy Commissioner's concerns have merit, and should they be included in amendments to the bill?
Again, Mr. Lloyd, I did have a chance to speak to the Privacy Commissioner last week. I am aware of the concerns that he has identified. There are a number of safeguards in the bill that includes referral, reporting to both NCIRA and NCCOP, which report ultimately to Parliament, as you're aware. We've also taken a number of amendments that he has proposed in the previous iteration under Bill 26. There's, I believe, 2 or 3 of the proposed amendments were incorporated. For those that are outstanding, there is reference to the Privacy Act, compliance with the Privacy Act. So I believe we have taken a number of very important steps. I am, as I've always said, I'm open to discussions on potential changes.
We did have testimony at the same meeting from the Intelligence Commissioner, who receives reports from our intelligence community. We were told by officials that the information provided under C8 is going to be technical information, not private information. But the Intelligence Commissioner raised very concerning, saying that when he reviews these reports, the context that he's provided does include Canadians' personal information. So what is going to be done to ensure that when providing context to these technical reports, that Canadians' private information is not impacted or revealed?
Well, look, I think the role, I respect the role of the Intelligence Commissioner. Again, I also met with him last week, and I respect the work that he does. I mean, with respect, the issues of disclosure that are part of C8 is very much of a technical nature. It does not go into the privacy issues of individuals, and it should not impact necessarily the work of the Intelligence Commissioner. We've taken a number of safeguards, including reference to NCIRA and NCCOP, which are required to, there's an obligation for us to report any incidents to these agencies within 90 days of the incident.
Thank you, Minister. Sorry to cut you off. Who is the government required to report cyber incidents that impact the government of Canada itself?
I'm just going to maybe, if I could ask Colin to answer that question, Mr. Lloyd.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, for the question. So the answer is yes. The Government of Canada has a response plan known as the Federal Cyber Incident Response Plan. This is available online. As part of the requirement for that, should the federal government be subject to a cyber incident, it is to be reported into the Canadian Centre for Cybersecurity, the Treasury Board Secretariat, and Public Safety Canada.
Are those reports ever made public?
Of the specific incidents?
Yes.
Not to my knowledge.
Now, are you aware of incidents where Canadian government servers have been hacked for illicit crypto mining operations, costing the Canadian taxpayer millions of dollars?
Off the top of my head, no.
Minister, are you aware? If there was an incident that there was illicit crypto mining on Canadian government servers that cost millions of dollars, would that not have to be reported in the public accounts as a loss?
I would assume it would be, Ms. Lloyd, yes.
And if it wasn't reported under the loss, why would be the reason why it wouldn't be reported?
I can't speculate, but if there's a specific incident, I will be more than glad to look at it and report back to this committee.
I'm just very concerned because part of this bill, there's secrecy provisions, and I'm concerned that there could be a lack of transparency because we know we're trying to hold telecoms and others accountable when there's these cyber incidents, but who's holding the government accountable when they have cyber incidents that cost Canadian taxpayers millions and millions of dollars? And if the government doesn't report those incidents, we're potentially looking at Canadians not knowing the vulnerabilities in our government system. What do you say to that, Minister?
On a practical level, my understanding is that reporting does happen on a case-by-case basis when incidents of cybersecurity that impact the privacy concerns of individuals. I do believe there's reporting that does occur.
Merci, député Lloyd, pour...
Thank you, Mr. Lloyd. Ms. Dangerand, you have 5 minutes. Thank you, Mr. Duclos.
Yes, and I'll start right away with just asking you to comment on some of the things that we heard during the second reading of the bill. So there's a member, a Conservative member, which happens to be with us, MP Struss, who said that Bill C-8 would allow the Liberals to kick people off the Internet without a warrant. Is that correct?
Absolutely not.
Okay, so what can what is this bill going to do?
And I think it's very important, and I humbly ask all colleagues on this. It's important that when we're bringing forward a legislation such as this, it should not be a politicized type of piece of legislation. This is meant for the safety and security of all Canadians. Canadians need to have confidence in our security apparatus. They need to have confidence that all of us are working together for the best interest of Canadians. So in that vein, I would say a simplistic assertion such as that really is inaccurate. What is accurate is in very limited circumstances when an individual who may have access to internet through a service provider poses a risk to the safety and security of our critical infrastructure, who has demonstrated that type of behavior, continued behavior, could harm our critical infrastructure and thereby many other systems. There is, on very limited scope, the ability to terminate their internet services. And it is on exceptional circumstances. It's not on a routine basis.
Thank you, Minister. It is very clear. And I'd also like to bring back Bill C-26. Are there major differences between Bill C-26 that all parties voted in favor and the current bill?
No, there isn't. As you know, Bill 26, C-26 went to both through both houses, and there was a technical issue that had to be corrected.
Is this point of order, Mr. Chair? How is this relevant, I wonder?
Well,
we're talking about Bill C-8. Is that not? Is that any different than the point of order that was made by the Liberals? Thank you, Mr. Chair.
So la même remarque s'applique que celle que j'ai faite tout à l'heure.
The same comment that I made earlier applies. Members have the right and the ability to ask questions which they feel to be the most relevant for the topic of debate of the day, which today is C-8, and other directly or indirectly related questions. Madam, your time has been stopped. Yes, Mr. Lloyd.
I just was made aware that during my speaking time with the minister that the microphones were not being synced properly, and so my questions were not being picked up. And I'm just wondering if the clerk can take a look at that, because it's just concerning if people can't hear what I had to say at committee. That impacts the testimony of this committee. Thank you.
Good. That is an appropriate point of order, and technicians will look into this, and we'll come back to that in a moment when we have clear answers. Madame la députée.
Thank you, Chair. And we are talking about Bill C-8, and I'm going to ask you to comment on Bill C-8 and similarities or differences with Bill C-26 that was presented during the last session. So are there major differences between Bill C-26 and C-8? And reminding that Bill C-26 was past all the steps in both chambers.
To maybe just comment on this, essentially it's the same bill with some very minor changes.
Thank you, Minister. Yes, so to answer your question, there was an administrative error that was corrected. The other substantive difference is because of Bill C-70 that adopted a secure administrative review procedure to allow, in the context of judicial reviews, a special process to consider confidential information, appoint special counsels to assess the intelligence that might be used in an administrative proceeding. And so SARP, as we reference it, replaced the provisions in C26 that referenced a specific process. And so now SARP applies to almost all judicial reviews as opposed to piecemeal per legislation. So that was the real substantive change.
Thank you. So, Minister, there are no substantial differences between Bill C26 and C8, and Bill C26 passed with the agreement of all the other parties. Thank you very much. Est-ce que vous pouvez nous expliquer?
Could you explain to us how the government is going to ensure that the powers conferred by C8 will not be extended beyond what is already provided for? In other words, beyond private companies. How will this be done?
It's quite clear that the scope of C8 involves, first and foremost, 4 areas of responsibility that are primarily in the federal domain. Any additional elements that need to be added on will require Governor and Council change that would expand the scope of the bill. Again, due to the nature of our federal state, anything outside of the federal domain will likely be unconstitutional, so it is a very narrow.
All right, guys, I agree. I find it pretty boring when the Liberals are asking the Liberals questions. I'm showing that, though, to showcase to Canadians that might not know that this is corruption. This is a scam. We'll get into some more conservative videos. Let's check that out.
Thank you. So I have a concern about critical infrastructure, and I think impingements on civil liberties to protect critical infrastructure could be justified, but that's not what the bill says. So could you allay my concern by, instead of saying the telecommunication system, changing it to say critical infrastructure pertaining to the telecommunication system?
Look, if that's an amendment that you would wish to make, I will be more than willing to look at it. Mr. Strauss, I can't give you that. I can't give you that answer, off the top without giving some reflection and getting some advice on it. But we'll be more than glad to look at it.
I mean, I've been raising this in the House for more than a month, so I would prefer that you had reflected on it already.
If I may, the debate oftentimes brings a number of perspectives there that may not materialize into amendments. So I do think from a process perspective, if there's something you want to put forward as part of the amending process that we will have in this committee, I will more than glad to look at it.
I will do, thank you. And then also subsection 3 says that the order that is made to any person to deny them any service, which is obviously overbroad, may include the prohibition of the disclosure of its existence. So if I did something that you and Melanie Joly thought was misinformation, and you decide to revoke my internet privileges, you can order me not to disclose that to anyone. Is that correct?
To be clear, this is not about misinformation, Mr. Strauss.
You said that's a threat to telecommunications.
Absolutely not about misinformation. This is about critical threats to our infrastructure, including telecommunications. So let's not, I think we have to be very careful. There's a delineation here. There's misinformation that happens every single day around on a range of different platforms, and they are not subject to this legislation. What is subject to the legislation is if an individual causes a threat to our telecommunication infrastructure or other critical infrastructure.
Well, Minister, it doesn't say that. Like, it doesn't say critical infrastructure. You're telling me the bill's not about what it says. So in any case, if I threaten it, in however you interpret 15.1, if I threaten it, then you can order me not to say that I've been kicked off the internet. Is that correct?
It is not about kicking people off the internet, Mr. Strauss. It's about the protection of our infrastructure, of our telecommunications
by kicking people off the
systems,
internet.
Not based on frivolous, allegations, right? Because we are living in a world of misinformation. Sadly, it is a sad reality, I think, for all of us here, and all of us as politicians face that on every single day.
Who decides that the allegations are frivolous? Who decides that? If it's not a judge.
Sorry, I was a bit patient, but as you will have known MP Strauss and Minister when those comments and questions overlap. It becomes impossible for a significant portion of those listening to us to understand what's going on because the interpreters cannot do their job. So I'd like to invite both of you to speak in a manner which makes it possible for everyone to follow the conversation. And I'll turn back to you, MP Strauss, for 30 seconds.
If these secret orders are not subject to judicial review, then it is you and Melanie Joly who will decide if there are reasonable grounds and if the threat is significant. So when you say it's not arbitrary, it is arbitrarily left to the ministers by my reading of the bill. Is that not correct?
We rely on information and advice from experts. Some of them are here today.
I'll take that as a yes. Thank you.
No,
why would you not? Why would you not?
I'm sorry. That will be the end of the segment. I'm sorry. No. I'm sorry. Okay, so I would hate to suspend. So that is the end of the segment. We have 5 minutes now for MP Assassi.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Minister, for being here with us again today. I have to say that I find members opposite just rambling off all the time on this legislation. I find it to be a very sophisticated piece of legislation. So, what Mr. Strauss just said, he says that if someone...
So I'm not interested in watching Ali Assassi here at all. He's a troll. He's a liberal troll, a pig in the backbench of this liberal corruption. We're losing this guy. We've got more interesting things to watch.
Thank you very much. I will use my minutes. I might use all of them. If not, I may defer some to Mr. Al, or give some to Mr. Al. Ms. Minister, I respect some of the things you said in your opening statement. You mentioned some things like keeping us safe and secure, keeping borders across our country safe. You used the word proactive, and you used the word urgency to get the law enforcement the tools they need. And you also applauded the hardworking CBSA and RCMP officers, and we owe them a debt of gratitude. These are some of your words, and I couldn't agree more. We've had discussions in previous committee meetings with Mark Weber, who is the union president for CBSA agents, and he indicated to us that there would be some difficulty in getting 1,000 new border agents. And I don't really want to bring up, that, and I know it's going to take time to get 1,000 new border agents. My concern is with what he said. It brought some discovery to committee in terms of attrition for CBSA agents, and we train 600 and 600 leave through attrition, and he referenced some toxicity in terms of the workplace for them, inland officers as well as border officers. And I'm wondering if you can comment or if you're aware of some of that.
Look, I appreciate the question, and I appreciate where this question is coming from. And first of all, I've been to maybe 15 ports of entry, and I have met with a number of both leaders as well as those who are working on the front lines, and I make it a point to talk to people. Look, I can't assess the workplace just based on those visits.
Okay.
I do leave it to and I have regular meetings with the union, so if there's issues, I'll be more than willing to engage them. I do have full confidence in our president and the work that she's been doing on that.
Okay, that's fair, because I may refer some questions to Ms. O'Gorman as well. And it's my understanding, and Minister, you and I, we were saying earlier, we live near the same area. You're Scarborough and I'm Oshawa, and it's my understanding, I've learned recently from a constituent of mine, that there are currently 450 grievances in just the GTA that officers have brought forward. And Ms. Gorman, you're aware of these, I'm sure?
Yes. So I'll tackle a couple of issues.
Okay.
It's a large workforce that in many instances operates in difficult and stressful circumstances. C65, we have a professional standards, we have a large labor relations group, and there are many doors that people can go to if they have concerns, and I'm regularly briefed on that. I need to make sure people know where to go and that we can take decisions as quickly as possible. We work actually quite closely with the union to try to bring the number of grievances down. Some will be policy grievances, and there might be many
Okay,
policy grievances.
I do want to just get to the next point because I am getting somewhere and I
Yeah.
want to get there quickly if I can. Are you noticing a toxic culture? Has it come up at all that there's a toxic culture specifically for women officers? Have you heard that at all?
Had some cases that were difficult cases that resulted in discipline. But are there more cases relating to women in the workplace than men?
Discrimination, specifically discrimination against women in the workplace? And the reason I'm bringing this up is we want to have 1,000 new border officers, right? How are we going to get there if the attrition is so high because it's such a toxic culture?
Yeah.
And I do want to bring this up specifically because I'm aware of several women who have felt that they're afraid to actually bring a grievance forward for fear of reprisal from CBSA. They're afraid to bring them forward. So could you please comment on that?
If you will permit me, let me answer that. And first of all, I want to thank the President, and I know the leadership that she offers to CBSA. Any allegation of this sort is something that both of us, but I particularly would want to hear more about. I would invite you to, in Constituency Week, I'll be more than willing to come to Oshawa to meet with some individuals on a without prejudice
That sounds
basis.
like a great plan. I would love to do that because we do need to study it. And my time's up, so I just want to say that that's very important. Specifically, if we are going to increase our security at our borders, if we're not taking care of the attrition and the toxic culture for our officers that we respect so much, then we're not going to be able to do that. So I think it needs to be a top priority.
I make my commitment to you on this, and I know the President.
We need to be
will work
proactive
together
and
on this.
urgent about it. Thank you.
Sorry to interrupt. Great conversation. We now need to turn to MPSSE for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr.
Work that bring forward issues around postal, because if you talk to communities, if you talk to Indigenous communities in up north or any remote areas, they will say that the number one way fentanyl comes into their communities is through the post office. And that's why we had those provisions in place. That's why we have issues around
But this is exactly
money
what I'm
laundering.
hearing from our community, saying that, why do we have to wait for more people to die before actions will be taken? Now, going to the point that you just raised, I want to ask another question. Given that over 90% of fentanyl actually come to Canada through BC, right? So we know that. And in that case, why are resources not being distributed accordingly so that, we can address the problem in BC more effectively? So in your recent budget, I do not see any increase in resources to be devoted to BC to address that problem. So we know that there's 90% of those illegal drugs come to Canada through BC. So why not?
BC is certainly an area we have incredible amount of resources. I can ask either RCMP or CBS to speak about it, but I can give you the broader example. The 1,000 new CBSA and RCMP officers will be deployed to ports of entry in areas where there is high need. BC, certainly we see, BC is not only high volume of traffic that comes in, it's also probably one of the fastest growing areas of port use. For example, Prince Rupert is expected to triple in its capacity over the next decade. So our investments that we're making right now that are in this budget will be going, and I can tell you with certainty, it will be going to BC. It will be going to areas around the.
But again, you're talking about the future, right?
So we're talking about now. We're talking about today. We're talking about the budget that's in front of us today that will ensure that resources are going to British Columbia, that resources are going to the borders through the investment of 1,000 RCMP and 1,000 CBSA officers.
But again, this is not happening today. But well, that brings me to the question, right? Again, you promised that there will be testing labs in Vancouver, in Toronto. So may I have an update? Are those facilities already in operation?
The labs,
10 seconds, and then that's over.
The labs are available. If you would like a breakdown of where the labs are, I would be more than willing to share that with you. I would also invite you to go there. I would be more than willing to provide that access through our agencies.
Merci beaucoup, député A, pour.
Thank you very much. And now over to Mr. Caputo.
We're back to
Questions,
Frank
and
the
first
Tank.
I begin
Let's
by
go.
thanking the officials for being here. I'll be focusing my questions, Mr. Chair, to the Minister and, where appropriate, Ms. O'Gorman. Ms. O'Gorman, do you have addresses for the 32,000 people listed on your website who are currently deportable and on warrant, as in you don't know where they are? Do you have addresses for those people?
Well, as you say, we don't know where they are, so we don't have their addresses.
So when the minister says, and this was his testimony last time, Mr. Caputo, we have addresses for individuals who are in the removal queue, quote, and then end quote. You don't have addresses for people in the removal queue. That's correct?
Well, you made reference to a particular part of the removal queue. And so we have removals in progress. We know where those people are. We are in close touch with them. We are ensuring they are removed. We do have warrants out for individuals who have absconded.
Right. You don't know where they are. So, obviously people do contact my office, so I'm wondering how many armed officers, because the armed officers are the only ones who can make the arrests, is that right? When it comes to people who have a warrant for their arrest, they're the ones who literally go out and find these people, correct?
Yes.
How many armed officers do you have looking for these individuals?
So I'm going to expand it a little bit. We have 1,000 inland enforcement officers who deal with IRPA. So they may be in our detention facilities, they may be doing IRB hearings, or they may be doing removals. Approximately 500 people are doing removals. They may occasionally do a hearing. They may be dealing with somebody in detention. And so you're pinning me down to one number when we have quite a dynamic workforce, but I can say approximately half of those people are dealing with removals, and they're supported by administrative help who deal with the files so that they can do the going out and finding people.
So you're telling me that on a daily basis or day to day, there are 500 people in CBSA approximately 500 people who are armed and are looking for these fugitives. Is that accurate?
I'm going to say approximately because there's a lot going on in our inland enforcement, but they relate to individuals who are in Canada who perhaps should not be here, who are in Canada who might pose a risk to Canadians and are in detention or are having their IRB hearing, and our officers will be representing the minister if we have concerns.
Okay. My information is that in the GTA there are only 55 people who are armed, approximately, and that about 10 are on the street daily looking for people who are on warrant. Would you dispute that number?
So your
This is for the
precision around being armed, I am going to have to come back to you.
Could you
because
please?
we do have CBSA officers who may not be armed, but who will be helping to execute removal. So I'll come back to you with a breakdown.
Okay. How many Minister, do you know how much money has been spent, or let me just really drill down. I'll just ask the Minister first, and Ms. O'Gorman can help. How many dogs have been trained to as drug sniffer dogs in the CBSA?
I'm going off recollection. I'm going to say between 65 to 75.
Okay, Ms. O'Gorman, is that?
We'll come back with a breakdown. We have drug detector dogs, we have currency dogs, and we have food, plant, and animal dogs.
How many dogs have been trained to track fentanyl?
Again, that's a new area, Mr. Caputo, so we're at the early stages of that training, and we will be enhancing that over the coming months.
So again, when it comes to the number, I don't want whether we're early, I want a number. How many dogs have been trained to track fentanyl, please?
I don't know, Mr. Caputo.
Ms. O'Gorman, do you know?
We're doing that right now. It's quite a new area. I believe the Americans were forerunners. We are working with them, but we're also working with allies. So fentanyl, as you can appreciate, highly toxic substance, and there weren't many inert, sufficiently similar goods that we had to train our dogs.
Ms.
So
O'Gorman,
again, we can come back.
I'm not trying to cut you off, but I'll be very direct. Have any dogs completed the training to track fentanyl for the CBSA? Okay, so we may actually have no dogs. The U.S. has dogs to track fentanyl, I assume. I assume they're the RCMP, I assume. I'm not sure if anybody at the RCMP can tell us whether there are dogs to track fentanyl. But what I'm hearing is we don't actually know. It sounds like there might be 0 dogs tracking fentanyl at this time, even though the problem of fentanyl trafficking has been at the feet of this government, which beckoned the response of C2 and C12. Do we have any dogs that know how to track fentanyl with the CBSA?
If I may answer this, Mr. Caputo, we were at the Five Eyes in the UK back in September, and there was a demonstration of dogs that are now trained with fentanyl. So they do have a number of dogs. The other five countries are in the process of doing the training. So we are.
But does Canada?
At this point, we are working towards ensuring we have dogs who can detect fentanyl.
I see my time is up. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Caputo. Madame McCann pour 6 minutes.
You have 6 minutes. Thank you, Chair.
Instead of that, we're going
Ms.
to
Lloyd
this.
for 5 minutes. Mr. Lloyd.
Minister, it's interesting that C12 is legislated.
We'll watch a few more minutes with our guy, MP Lloyd, right here, but then we're going to slip right into question period, perfectly timed. This is fun to watch, though, before question period gets going. You get to know the politicians more in the big question period pageant, which is just a farce.
Legislation that has evolved from the previous legislation you introduced, C2, the Strong Borders Act. I just find it an interesting kind of unintended admission that if you have a bill coming forward called the Strong Borders Act, it's really saying that our borders are not strong at all. And I say, Minister, since our last meeting when I raised the issue of the Mexican visas being lifted in 2016, have you had a chance to review the information that I raised to you? And do you have any other thoughts on the impact that your government's decision to lift those visas in 2016 have had on weakening our border and our immigration system?
Thank you, Ms. Lloyd, for the question. Look, whether it's Bill C-12 or C-2, it's very much premised on the fact that we need to do more to strengthen our border, to strengthen law enforcement's ability to both enforce as well as give them additional tools to make sure that our borders are stronger. Our borders are very strong as a starting point. It's not perfect, but of course it is the longest undefended border in the world, and one where over
Minister,
time we've had very good cooperation.
Thank you, Minister. Given the information that I gave you last week about the statistics we received about deportations from Mexican nationals since 2016, are you now willing to recognize the evidence that your government is largely responsible for the rapid increase in deportations from Canada, resulting in people that shouldn't have been here?
First of all, last year we closed the ability of Mexican nationals to come here without a visa, which I think has been an important step. Additional measures we've taken at the border, including the bill that's in front of you, I believe addresses many of the concerns that were identified.
Thank you, Minister. You know, I just want to provide some more details because we had some redacted documents last week and I received some more information. In 2016, the first year that your government lifted the visa requirement, there were about 128 people from Mexico detained at the border. The visas worked. It prevented people from coming here who, had questionable backgrounds. Do you have any idea what that number was in 2017 after your government had lifted the visas? It went from 128 people in 2016 to 2,471 people in 2017. That is a massive, massive change. In fact, if you look cumulatively from 2016 to 2024, 11,000 out of 16,000 people who were detained at the border were Mexican nationals. That's 68% of all the people that were detained at the border since your government lifted the visa requirement. This is huge work for the CBSA to do. These people were also released on a 48-hour alternative to detention. Minister, do you not recognize that there was a cause and effect? You said you saw no correlation in the last meeting, that you lifted this visa requirement and your government opened the floodgates for this to come to Canada.
Mr. Lloyd, I don't like to target a particular community or particular nation. I can speak to you in a broader sense. What's important, I think, is we take measured steps to, first of all, put in restrictions. In the case of Mexico, we have done that as of last year. It's also about ensuring that within Canada there are enforcement as well as tools for law enforcement to be able to address those who are coming across our border who are ineligible to be here.
Minister, you say that you don't want to target communities, and by your own admission, your government reimposed the visas on Mexico in 2024. In fact, in 2023, there were over 3,000 people that were deported from Canada to Mexico. That was 40% of all the deportations that Canada did in 2023 from that one country. So you're coming here talking and accusing members of targeting specific countries? Well, Minister, the statistics show that it's your government.
Let me be very clear, Mr. Lloyd. I'm not suggesting that you're targeting. I'm suggesting that I don't want to get into that frame of discussion. But what I can tell you is that Mexico and the United States are our closest trading partners with longstanding trade links, including the USMCA. So there are economic reasons where certain decisions
in my last
were
15 seconds, Minister, and yet prior to your government lifting the visa requirements, this wasn't an issue. We had great bilateral trading relationships with our Mexican allies, with our American allies, and yet your government's decision resulted in this absolute chaos at the border, and that's why this legislation is before us today. Thank you.
All right, gang. We're going to cross over now to question period. There are some things going on the floor. We've got Andrew Scheer up on deck first. Let's take a look.
He can enjoy climbing the
share,
ranks
subscribe,
of racing.
gang.
I encourage everyone to join Canadian Blood Services Stem Cell Registry. Sign up online and swab your cheek. It's a simple act that could easily save someone's life. For those who have already registered as a donor, thank you. Together we can continue to show the compassion and generosity that makes Canada so great.
L'honorable député de Beauharnois.
The Honourable Member for Beauharnois, Salaberry, Soulanges, Huntington. Mr. Speaker, this November, I felt it was particularly important to highlight this edition of Social Economy Month as it builds on the mobilization and promotion efforts of the Social Economy Summit. The summit was historic. It is no coincidence that the mobilization effort and the call for follow-up action were unanimously approved by the National Assembly of Quebec. 1,500 people from all regions and all sectors working in different spheres, economic, cultural, community, union, political, all came together with a common goal: to highlight the transformative potential of the social economy in responding to Quebec's collective challenges, be they aging population, housing needs, the preservation of natural environments, or cultural vitality. During this Social Economy Month, it is both natural and necessary for the Bloc Québécois to support the next steps in this process and to help build an economy that works for us.
The Honourable Member for Coquitlam, Port Coquitlam.
Mr. Speaker, today I congratulate Port Coquitlam's Patina Brewing on their success at the 2025 Beer Awards. On October 17 at New Westminster's Anvil Centre, Patina earned second place in the mixed-style beer category for their Italian Pilsner. This recognition reflects the skill and pride of a hometown team that keeps raising their bar for quality and community. Our region's craft beer scene is thriving. Local brewers brought home 6 awards this year, with strong showings from Burnaby's Daggerad Brewing, Port Moody's Yellow Dog, and New Westminster's Steel and Oak. These achievements come during challenging times for the industry, and they speak to resilience, creativity, and the support of loyal customers across the Tri-Cities and New Westminster. Congratulations, Bettina. Keep brewing excellence.
The honourable member for Brantford, Brant South, Six Nations.
After 10 years of Liberal waste, Canadians hope for change. Instead, the Prime Minister delivered the costliest budget outside of COVID. A bloated, inflation-fueling deficit that punishes work, drives up prices, and shatters every promise his government made. He vowed discipline, but his budget explodes the deficit to $80 billion, piles on $90 billion in new spending, and drives both debt and inflation higher. And while the Liberals borrow and spend, investment collapses, unemployment climbs, and the cost of living crushes working families. Canadians pay more in interest on Liberal debt than Ottawa transfers for health care. Every dollar does not go to doctors or nurses, but rather bankers and bondholders. Ordinary Canadians are paying the price. Higher bills, higher taxes, and vanishing hope for their kids. Canadians have sacrificed enough. They cannot afford another inflationary Liberal budget. Conservatives will fight for the people who work, pay the bills, build this country. We will keep working to restore the affordable life Canadians deserve.
The honourable member for New Westminster, Burnaby, Maillardville.
New Westminster. Oh, sorry. I'll restart. Sorry. Mr. Speaker, November is Movember, a month for men's health awareness. We lose far too many men to suicide every year. So to the boys and men hearing this today, I urge you to take care of your health. It's easy to feel alone, but there may be people that care about you very much that you can talk to, and your existence as a person is valuable. So please, if you're ever considering self-harm, fight back against that voice in your head. It's okay to reach out for help, and that's the brave thing to do. You just need to talk about it. It's brave to be open about these things. I encourage everyone to take part in Movember, whether that's growing a mustache, fundraising, exercising, or organizing men's health events. This is a very important cause. Thank you.
The honourable member for Chatham-Kent, Leamington.
The long-awaited federal budget was tabled, and while a new Liberal leader was supposed to mean a new direction, this budget proves it's the same government with the same wasteful spending and the same paying for Canadians. Families are cutting back on groceries. Young people can't afford homes, and retirees are watching their savings shrink. Under this new Liberal leader, nothing has changed. Actually, that's not true. Things are getting worse. Yesterday, Stats Canada confirmed that food inflation is rising again. Canada is the only G7 country to see 4 straight months of rising food inflation. Between March and September, food inflation jumped sharply across everyday staples. Coffee and tea prices rose 15%. Beef and berries up 25%. These aren't luxury goods, they're essentials. Conservatives put forward a plan to lower food prices by cutting the industrial carbon tax, the food packaging tax, the cost of fuel standard, and by ending inflationary deficits. But Liberals voted it down. Canadians deserve better. Conservatives will fight for an affordable budget for an affordable life for all Canadians.
The honourable member for Alfred Pellan. Mr. Speaker, this week is Veterans Week. I would like to pay tribute to all those who have served Canada with courage and dedication in times of war, conflict, and peace. Members of the Canadian Armed Forces have protected our country, defended our values, and contributed to peace and security around the world. Their service embodies Canada's commitment to freedom, democracy, and solidarity among nations. On November 8th, we pay tribute to Indigenous veterans who have served with bravery and loyalty. By fully recognizing their contribution, we honor their legacy and we affirm our commitment to remembrance and reconciliation. On November 11th, we mark Remembrance Day in memory of those who gave their lives so that we could live in peace. Their courage and sacrifice remains a source of inspiration for all Canadians. During this week of recognition, let us proudly wear the poppy, lest we forget. Let us remember. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for London Fanshawe.
Mr. Speaker, this week the Liberal government released its 10th budget, the costliest deficit outside of COVID and double what the Prime Minister's predecessor left behind. Mark Carney broke every promise he made. He promised to keep the deficit at $62 billion, allowed
We cannot refer to members of this House by their proper name. Okay, the member may continue.
The Prime Minister broke every promise he made. He promised to keep the deficit at $62 billion, a level the Parliamentary Budget Officer had already called unsustainable, yet it is now ballooned to nearly $80 billion. He said he would lower the debt to GDP ratio, but both debt and inflation are rising. He promised to spend less, but added $90 billion more. That is $5,400 in extra inflationary spending per household. Families in London are paying the price. Groceries, gas, rent, and mortgages keep climbing while paychecks fall further behind. Canadians already spend more on debt interest than on health care. The budget at this time is simply irresponsible. Mr. Speaker, Conservatives stand for an affordable budget for an affordable life. Londoners deserve hope, homes, and a future they can afford.
Hear, hear.
The Honourable Member for Moncton Dieppe.
Mr. Speaker, all children deserve a safe, comfortable place to lay their heads. But for some families, a bed for each child is a luxury they simply can't afford. Since 2018, Sleep in Heavenly Peace Canada has put out...
She should try to get her money back on that haircut. My goodness, what a bowl cut that Jeanette Petitpas-Taylor paid for, I guess.
A motion for change.
She looks
As
awful.
volunteers donate materials and their time to help build beds and distribute them in communities across the country. Our local Moncton chapter was founded just this past June and have already delivered and have built 52 beds, and nationwide their objective is to deliver 3,000 beds by the end of this year. My husband Brock and I recently accepted an invitation to join local leaders at Sleep in Heavenly Peace, Jim Brazzetti and Marie-Claire Pierce, and help them build some beds with a group of local volunteers. Thank you to Jim and Marie-Claire for their invitation and for their tireless devotion to this cause. I encourage all Canadians to look for their nearest chapter of Sleep in Heavenly Peace, or even to start a chapter in their area to support this wonderful charity. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Oral questions.
Here we go.
The Honourable Member for Oxford.
See what's
Thank you.
Who's up first?
Mr. Speaker, this Liberal government is the most expensive in Canadian history. The more they spend, the more things cross. Their so-called generational budget is nothing more than generational debt, mortgaging away our children's future. Massive Liberal deficits feed inflation. Inflation fuels unaffordability. Our seniors can barely buy groceries. Our families are stretched thin, and our workers are falling behind. Yet this Prime Minister, he still wants them to make more sacrifices. Can the Prime Minister tell us what more is left for Canadians to sacrifice?
The Honourable Government House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, this morning brings outstanding news of the tens of thousands, in fact 69,000 new jobs in Canada. The second straight month of employment growth in this country. What's happening, as the Minister of Natural Resources informed us yesterday, is investors are piling into Canada. They're expressing confidence in our country. The entrepreneurs, the tech sector, young people are getting energized about this positive economic momentum. We're going to keep it going with this budget. I hope the Conservatives support us in it.
The Honourable Member for Oxford.
Mr. Speaker, this Brookfield budget has the largest deficit in history outside of COVID. The interest payments are topping $55 billion, more than what we spent on healthcare transfers. This means less for doctors, less for nurses, less for our hospitals, but more for bondholders and Liberal insiders. The only thing that's getting healthy under this government are the bankers' profits. They keep getting rich while Canadians foot the price. So can the Prime Minister tell us why he is so hell-bent on making sure his banker buddies get rich while Canadians suffer?
The Honourable Minister of Finance.
I think it's worth repeating. The economy has added 67,000 new jobs, Mr. Speaker. 67! Even the Conservatives are happy this morning on a Friday, Mr. Speaker. Look at their face. They are smiling because they're going back home and they have good news. Not only in the budget, Mr. Speaker, there's hundreds of pages of good news, but this morning they can say that the plan of the government will build Canada strong because what, Mr. Speaker? We believe in Canada.
Honourable Member for Dufferin-Caledon.
Only a bunch of Liberals would stand up and applaud an unemployment rate of 7% when the United States unemployment rate is 4.2%. This is the most expensive government in Canadian history. In 10 years, they doubled the debt, and now they're going to pile on another $78 billion. Meanwhile, 2.2 million Canadians are going to the food bank. The softwood lumber industry is being devastated. The auto industry is being devastated. Is there a Liberal over there that can stand up and explain how they've spent so much money to accomplish so little?
The Honourable Minister of International Trade.
67,000. That's how many new jobs were created last month. 20,000 of these jobs were for young Canadians. A clear sign that our plan is working. In Canada, 1 in 5 jobs are related to trade. From small businesses to major exporters, Canadians are driving growth and creating opportunities. In Budget 2025, we have a plan to support our entrepreneurs, our workers, our exporters, as we build the strongest economy in the G7. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable Member for Dufferin-Caledon.
Once again, how do they stand up and applaud an unemployment rate of 7% when the United States unemployment rate is 4.2%? It's actually like we're living in some kind of dystopian universe where they do this. The facts are this. A softwood lumber industry is being hollowed out. 2.2 million Canadians are using the food bank. The auto industry is on its knees, and they stand and applaud a 7.1% unemployment rate. They have spent more money than all governments combined in the history of Canada. How can they applaud when they've spent so much to actually accomplish so little?
The Honourable Minister of Artificial Intelligence and Digital Innovation.
Speaker, here is something to applaud about. We created 67,000 new jobs last month. That's right. Mr. Speaker, this is about building an affordable nation for a nation of builders. This budget does just that. We are building affordable housing for young people. We are creating 100,000 new summer jobs. And Mr. Speaker, we are investing in the tech sector. 800,000 workers, fastest growing job sector in the economy, many for young people. I hope the Conservatives, and many of them do, support this budget.
The Honourable Member for Louis Saint Laurent Akio-Wenrac. Mr. Speaker, the Liberals have presented the most expensive and deficit-ridden budget in Canada's history outside of the pandemic. Nearly $8 billion in deficit, $80 billion. Mr. Speaker, a deficit means spending money we don't have. A deficit is a bill that we send our children and our grandchildren. A deficit is adding fuel to the inflation fire. Why is this Prime Minister spending more and uncontrolledly without focusing on inflation? The Honourable Minister. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm very proud to inform my colleague that over the past month, the Canadian economy added 67,000 new jobs. Because with their help, if we support the 2025 budget, we will unleash the power of the Canadian economy by building big projects like the container for the Port of Quebec, and I hope he'll support the economy so we can build the strongest in the G7. The Honourable Member for Louis Saint Laurent Akio-Wenrac. Mr. Speaker, unfortunately, I'm not proud at all of the figure I'm going to cite. 2.2 million Canadians have to use a food bank. That's the Liberal track record. And of these 2 million, 1 out of 3 are children. We're talking about 700,000 children in Canada that have to use food banks to eat. Mr. Speaker, but I love Canada too much to see this. Why is the government continuing to rack up deficits? We're talking about $80 billion. We know deficits are just debts we're sending to our children, our grandchildren. Canadians deserve better than this. The Honourable Secretary of State. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This budget invests in our children. It invests, it requires funds so we can create jobs, so we can renew purchasing power for all Canadians. That's what's important. That's what we're doing. Canadians are hoping for this, and I hope that my colleagues will support this budget, which will give power back to all Canadians. The Honourable Member for Côte-Nord, Kaukowicz-Miach, Netasanan. Mr. Speaker, there would never have been a confidence vote on the budget today if the Liberals had worked in the interests of Quebecers. But here we are, unfortunately. We're here because they refused to negotiate in good faith. Despite their minority status, they rejected Quebec's request for health care and infrastructure, as well as the needs of seniors struggling with the cost of living, or those of young people who would like to become homeowners. Why did they prefer to orchestrate this confidence vote instead of responding to the needs of Quebecers? The Honourable Government House Leader. Mr. Speaker, we have great trust that Quebecers have seen in this budget investments in culture. They trust this. They trust in our investments in housing. They trust in our investments in military to create jobs, in Navy and in aerospace. They trust the Liberal Party to protect their language and culture and Radio-Canada. Here in Canada, we're investing in our language and culture. And in Quebec, and in the Quebec specificity, Quebecers have expressed their trust in this budget. The only question that remains, will the Bloc do the same? The Honourable Member for Côte-Nord. Mr. Speaker, Quebecers did not vote Conservative, and yet this is a Conservative budget despite its Liberal deficits. Health care cuts, mass layoffs, climate capitulation, these are Conservative ideas. The government leader even confirmed this in the House on Wednesday, indicating that this is a budget that Conservative voters can love. And it's working because there's turmoil in the Conservative ranks. They identify with this budget. Why did the Liberals choose to court the Conservatives instead of listening to the demands of Quebecers? The Honourable Minister of Industry. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On this side of the House, we are very proud to have 44 members from Quebec at the House of Commons, the largest amount. And we are here to support Quebecers. Quebecers asked us for funding for health. We did this with hospitals, emergency rooms, and doctors' clinics. We also had the support from Quebecers for support of French language and culture. We've invested in this. And Quebecers, what do they want? They want jobs. And this is a budget that will create jobs. The Honourable Member for Berthier-Masquinongé. Mr. Speaker, in the past, the Liberals made budgets to please the NDP, and now they're doing so to please the Conservatives. But they never make budgets to meet the needs of Quebecers. What Quebecers want is a health care system that works. They want to be able to grow old without losing their purchasing power. They want affordable housing. They want young people to be able to buy a home like previous generations did. And that's what we're seeing in Quebec. Why are the Liberals threatening elections instead of meeting the needs of Quebecers? The Honourable Minister of Government Transformation. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd ask my colleague, when he talks about housing, we're massively investing to build housing in Quebec. He talks about health. Quebecers want infrastructure that's of quality, and we have this in the budget. And they talked about jobs. We have a project across Quebec to develop our resources and create opportunities for young people. He talks about purchasing power. There's a tax cut for millions of Canadian, $800 per family less. So what do Quebecers want? They want a responsible and ambitious budget, and that's exactly what we're delivering. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Sherwood Park, Fort Saskatchewan.
Mr. Speaker, this Prime Minister proposed the worst budget deficit in history outside of the COVID period. Every dollar he spends costs Canadians in their taxes and through inflation. More spending by government means more sacrifices for Canadians, with more than 1 in 4 Canadians now living in financially insecure households. Will this Prime Minister at least consider reducing his deficits to levels that we saw under Justin Trudeau?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Mr. Speaker, what's remarkable about this budget is that it builds for the future, but it helps people today. This is a budget that cuts taxes for 22 million Canadians, saving families up to $800 a year. It makes the National School Food Program permanent, helping over 500,000 kids. It delivers automatic federal tax filing for 5.5 million Canadians. It invests in housing, it invests in infrastructure, and it lowers the barriers to make the Canada Disability Benefit more accessible. If the member opposite truly cares about affordability for families in Canada, he would come on over and vote for this budget.
The Honourable Member for Sherwood Park, Fort Saskatchewan.
Mr. Speaker, I know it's difficult for some members of the Liberal caucus to understand, but parents would actually prefer to be able to afford to buy food themselves for their kids. And they used to be able to before these Liberals took office. Latest numbers today show that more than 1 in 4 people in Canada are living in a financially insecure household. More than 1 in 4. That is the legacy of this party. It wasn't this way before. It doesn't have to be that way again. When will they change course?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Mr. Speaker, these Conservatives think they know best, but they are actually ignoring the experts. They're ignoring the Coalition for Healthy School Food, who calls this budget a great step forward to support children and youth in Canada. They're ignoring the Heart and Stroke Foundation and the Breakfast Club of Canada that also applaud our commitment to making the National School Food Program permanent. The Conservative Party needs to listen to the experts, listen to Children First Canada about why this program makes a difference and why 500,000 families across the country are going to benefit from it.
The Honourable Member for Leduc-Wetaskiwin.
Speaking of experts, according to Fitch Ratings just yesterday, quote, Canada's proposed budget announced in Parliament on November 4th underscores the erosion of the federal government's finances. Persistent fiscal expansion and a rising debt burden have weakened its credit profile and could increase rating pressure over the medium term. Mr. Speaker, this has happened before with crushing impact on Canadians. In the 90s, after similar rating pressure, the Liberal government of the day was forced to cut 32% from federal health and social transfers over just 2 years. Does anyone over there understand the gravity of this situation?
The Honourable Minister of Natural Resources.
Mr. Speaker, as somebody who spent much of his life in the banking community, let me tell him about the S&P and Moody's ratings, which are AAA, the best in the entire world. The best in the entire world. We have the second lowest debt in the GDP, Mr. Speaker. We're doing just fine.
The Honourable Member for Leduc-Wetaskiwin.
Mr. Speaker, ratings are always great until the day they're not. Here's a quick review of the early 90s from Reuters. February 1994, quote, Liberal government brings down what it considers to be a tough budget. It nonetheless has spending rising slightly, an immediate public and market reaction as it did not go nearly far enough. January 1995, quote, a biting editorial in the Wall Street Journal headline, Bankrupt Canada calls Canada an honorary member of the Third World. The next month, the Liberal government was forced to make the most vicious cuts to healthcare and social programs in Canadian history. Who over there is willing to take a stand to avoid a repeat?
The Honourable Minister of National Defence.
Mr. Speaker, Budget 2025 includes generational investments to rebuild, rearm and reinvest in the Canadian Armed Forces, and it starts with our people. This budget includes a $2 billion historic pay and benefits package, which will impact close to 100,000 forces and their families. Untrained sailors, privates and aviators are receiving a 20% pay raise. That's what's in our budget. That's what's at stake. All members of the House should come together to support our forces as they help build and keep Canada strong.
Honourable Member for Kitchener Centre.
Mr. Speaker, while Canadians are being forced to choose between heating and eating, this government has chosen to increase our national debt by $80 billion. Can this Prime Minister please explain how driving up the debt and increasing the cost of living is going to help the single mom skipping meals, the senior afraid to open their hydro bill, or the young family priced out of their new home? Or is this just continued economic theatre from a government that's completely lost touch with reality?
Yes. Secretary of State for Seniors.
They are fighting for youth, but they plan to vote against a national school food program.
What?
They say they are fighting for families, but they plan to vote against a middle income tax cut.
Wow.
They say they are fighting for workers, but they plan to vote against a $75 million apprenticeship training fund. They say they are fighting for our borders, but they plan to vote against a much needed pay raise for our service members in our armed forces, including in my riding at CFB Esquimalt. Canadians want to know who these Conservatives are fighting for, because it certainly is not Canadians.
The Honourable Member for Regina Capel.
Speaker,
After 10 years of Liberal inflationary deficits, working Canadians have never had it so tough. People lined up at food banks and parents putting beef back on the grocery store shelf were desperate for something in the budget to bring prices down. Did the Prime Minister scrap hidden taxes on food? No. Did he scrap the 17 cents fuel standards tax? No. The Prime Minister heard the cries of working Canadians, and what did he do? He scrapped the luxury tax on private jets and yachts. That's right, the only measure in this budget to make things cheaper will only apply to boats and airplanes. Can the Prime Minister tell us how many Canadians lined up at food banks will benefit from the private jet tax cut?
The Honourable Minister of Jobs and Families.
What Canadians want is a government that will invest in their futures and invest in their possibility, and that's exactly what we've been doing, Mr. Speaker. 67,000 new jobs added this month, Mr. Speaker, 2 months in a row where we're seeing unemployment go down. And what's great about this, Mr. Speaker, is youth unemployment is going down. So the investments we're making are working. This is a budget for young people, for seniors, for families. They're going to vote against things like dental care. They're going to vote against things like child care. That's what families need, and that's exactly what this budget delivers.
Member for Regina Capel.
If they really wanted to give workers a break, they'd scrap the industrial carbon tax that their American competitors don't have to pay. Now we all know who this budget really was for. It was a Brookfield boardroom budget. After all, the billions in extra debt means bankers and bondholders get big interest payments, and now when those board members go out to buy a luxury private jet, they get a big tax break. A Gulfstream G600 is currently listed for $63 million. Can the Prime Minister tell us how much a Brookfield executive will save with the private jet tax cut and how much more Canadians will have to pay when food prices go up?
I'm sorry, pardon.
Sorry, the Honourable Parliamentary Secretary for Housing and Infrastructure. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Canadians do not live in a pretend world. They know there is no tax on food. They know which party always vote against affordability, against dental care, pharmacare, child care, basically anything with the word care in it. But most importantly, Canadians know that our government is there for them with a budget that will protect jobs in critical sectors like auto, steel, aluminum, lumber, build affordable housing and the infrastructures our communities need all across Canada, empower, catalyze our economy. So if you're really there for Canadians, you'll vote for the budget. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Again, I would remind the member to go through the chair. I can't vote unless it's a tie.
The Honourable Member for Gaspésie, Les Îles-de-la-Madeleine, Lestigouche. Mr. Speaker, yesterday a report on Radio Canada revealed lobster smuggling in New Brunswick. It's troubling for people in this region and for everyone in the Maritimes. But the problem is even all more serious because in recent weeks we have heard that at Fisheries Committee that there's political interference in the works of fisheries officers to combat illegal fishing, and even experienced officers saying they're being hamstrung by the Department of Fisheries. How come senior officials in the department are intervening to prevent the law from being enforced? The Honourable Minister.
Unauthorized fishing is unacceptable, full stop. Fisheries officers have many tools that they use in the management of unauthorized fishing, from education to charges to fines. And often their work happens in remote areas and at times of the day when people are not aware of the work that they're doing. And I want to thank the fisheries officers for their outstanding work and keeping our fisheries safe and peaceful. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Gaspésie, Les Îles-de-la-Madeleine, Lestigouche. Mr. Speaker, illegal lobster fishing is endangering the species, and that's what worries fishers most. They want to protect this resource so their children and grandchildren can also fish. But we can take action against legal fishing. They just have to enforce the law. That's the only thing that the fishing industry is asking for at committee. They want the officers to be able to do their job without political interference or reprisals. My question is simple, so the answer must be as well. Will this government ensure that its fisheries officers enforce the law? The Honourable Minister of Fisheries.
Assure my colleague that the work is happening, and he needs to just look at what's happened in Nova Scotia, New Brunswick, and other parts of the country. The fisheries officers are on the water. We support their work. They are making a difference, and we accept nothing but authorized fishing. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Côte-du-Sud, Rivière-du-Loup, Katiskomik, Tamiskwata. Mr. Speaker, this government is the most expensive in Canada's history. Every dollar spent by the PM comes directly out of Canadians' pockets. The more he spends, the more everything costs. In my riding, producers are seeing their costs skyrocket because of the industrial carbon tax. Everything is going up, machinery, transportation, and it costs more to produce, and food prices go up at the grocery stores. While this PM spends recklessly, families continue to struggle to put food on the table. Why does this government refuse to admit that its industrial carbon tax is a tax on food that we have to pay? The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Canadian Culture. Mr. Speaker, clearly the carbon tax on industry is important to keep so we can protect our climate. Nevertheless, the cost of living is our priority, and we are going to work on this. This is a responsible budget to do so, and when will the opposition understand that we have to keep these factors for Canadians, and they should be supporting the budget? The Honourable Member for Côte-du-Sud, Rivière-du-Sud. Mr. Speaker, it's clear this minister does not understand the reality on the ground because, according to a Nanos poll, 1 in 5 Canadians have skipped paying a bill just to put food on the table. Frankly, this is unacceptable. Mr. Speaker, can this Prime Minister explain to my constituents and theirs why he's stubbornly sticking to this industrial carbon tax while families have to choose between heating their homes and filling their fridges? The Honourable Minister of Industry. Not only do we know that Quebecers support this budget, we know why. Because we're going to deliver for them. Good jobs in my riding. This riding will ensure that people who work at Alstom will have good jobs, will be able to buy groceries, and will be able to meet the needs of their families. Quebecers also want a good healthcare system. The federal government has continued to increase health. Well, in past budgets, they've increased health transfers, and we're keeping them the same in this one. And we're supporting the construction of hospitals. The Quebec government asked for this, and we delivered for them, and we're there for Quebec.
Honourable Member for Similkameen, South Okanagan, West Kootenay.
Mr. Speaker, the Liberals promised to spend less but have introduced the largest budget deficit in history outside of COVID. This at a time when 1 in 5 Canadians say they've skipped paying a bill to afford groceries this past year. Liberals had a chance to lower food prices. Instead, they increased the industrial carbon tax on our farms, driving up the cost of fertilizer and farm equipment. Why is this Prime Minister increasing the industrial carbon tax and making food more expensive?
Hear, hear. The Honourable Secretary of State for Labour.
Mr. Speaker, if that member should take next week and go and meet with her local chapters of the building trades in her riding, I encourage every member to take next week to meet with the locals to understand why they are supporting this budget. From coast to coast to coast, workers are supporting our plan. The Canadian building trades, the Alberta building trades, the IBEW, the carpenters, on and on. They are endorsing the investments made in this budget, Mr. Speaker. The SEIU said it best. Promises made, promises kept. Mr. Speaker, they're supporting the investments because we're building good jobs, good union jobs.
The Honourable Member for North Island, Powell River.
After 10 years of Liberal government, young Canadians are struggling. They're struggling to afford homes in one of the least affordable housing markets in the world. They're struggling to find jobs in an economy that is increasingly slowing down. And they're struggling just to afford food after some of the highest food inflation in more than 30 years. This budget was an opportunity to do right by the next generation. Instead, the Liberals announced over $300 billion in new debt that will be left to these exact same young Canadians to pay for. How is that ethical? How is that fair? How is that remotely fiscally responsible?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Mr. Speaker,
one number, 67,000 jobs created. And how are we supporting them? We are supporting them by investing in their health. And through Budget 2025, we're investing $5 billion to renew hospitals and healthcare centers, $97 million to recognize skilled professionals faster, and new supports for personal support workers. And Mr. Speaker, don't just take it from me, take it from CMA. They're saying this is a right step in the right direction to support the health of our nation. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for North Island, Powell River.
I have a simple question for the Liberal government. Over the past 10 years, they have doubled Canada's national debt. In that same time, unsurprisingly, they have also doubled the amount of taxpayers' money that they waste paying interest on that debt. In fact, today we now spend $55 billion a year just on interest payments. That's more than we collect in the GST. That's more than we spend on healthcare. And now they want to borrow another $320 billion. Does this government really think that spending $55 billion not on healthcare, not on roads, but on interest is a good use of taxpayer money, yes or no?
The Honourable Secretary of State for Sport.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. We are building Canada strong, and that includes the spaces and places that Canadians go to play, to practice, and to exercise, Mr. Speaker. A healthy lifestyle is preventative medicine, and we are building the facilities necessary right across this country. New rinks, new pools, new field houses, so the next generation of Canadians can have better physical literacy, a healthier lifestyle, and they can connect with their communities in those important places, Mr. Speaker. Why won't the Conservatives join us, build Canada strong, and make sure that every community has access to those facilities, that infrastructure that keeps us healthy and our communities connected?
The honourable member for Bay of Quinte.
Mr. Speaker, in my riding, the Bay of Quinte, so many of my neighbours are friends of veterans, family members of veterans, or veterans themselves. It's a privilege, then, and an honour to be here and representing them. The generational budget introduced by the Prime Minister and Finance Minister earlier this week will be deeply impactful to communities across Canada and to all Canadians, including those like mine that are home to so many veterans and active military members and their families. Can the Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Veterans Affairs offer his comments on Budget 2025?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Veterans Affairs.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, and I'd like to thank the member from the Bay of Quinte for that question. I also want to acknowledge retired Lieutenant Colonel Skip Simpson from the member's office, both for his service to our country and also for his service to the constituents in the Bay of Quinte. Budget 2025 indeed does represent a generational investment in communities across Canada. It also includes $185 million to streamline services for veterans and their families. I call on all members of the House to join me in acknowledging the service and sacrifice of all of Canada's veterans.
The honourable member for St. Albert, Sturgeon River.
Speaker, top executives at the Prime Minister's company, Brookfield, are defying an order of this House to testify at committee about his use of offshore tax havens. This is tantamount to contempt of Parliament. So, will the Prime Minister pick up the phone and tell his pals at Brookfield to comply with the House order, or is he complicit in the cover-up?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the news today was that we created 67,000 jobs. 67, Mr. Speaker. It's great news. We are growing the economy, and the budget 2025, is making historic investments that are going to keep this economy moving for generations to come. Mr. Speaker, why don't the Conservatives stand up and support this investment budget?
Honourable member for St. Albert, Sturgeon River.
Mr. Speaker, evidently he is complicit, because here are the facts. The Prime Minister was chair of a company that is Canada's biggest tax dodger. Not only that, he set up investment funds in Bermuda and the Cayman Islands in which he stands to make millions. The Prime Minister has a responsibility to come clean, and to come clean today. How much cash does he have stashed in offshore tax havens?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister has a responsibility to help build this country and to create jobs, and we created 67,000 jobs in the last month. Alone. We have a plan in Budget 2025 to build this country up by building major projects, including in that member's riding and province. We have investments to help support young people in this country, to build up apprentices, to be able to drive this country forward. Mr. Speaker, that is what we are focused on this side of this House, supporting Canadians, creating good jobs, and helping drive this country forward. Mr. Speaker, that's what we're going to keep doing.
Honourable Member for Hamilton East, Stony Creek.
This government is the most expensive in Canadian history. Every dollar the Prime Minister spends comes out of the pockets of Canadians. The more they spend, the more things cost, like housing. The Ontario Home Builders Association said they are deeply disappointed with the Liberal budget and that it fails to unlock supply and restore affordability. The government's inaction on housing has put 40,000 jobs at risk in Ontario, and the impact of these losses on the Ontario economy could be $5.3 billion. How can the Liberal budget cost so much but yet deliver so little to Canadians?
The Honourable Minister of Justice.
Mr. Speaker, Oscar Wilde described a cynic as someone who knows the cost of everything but the value of nothing. On this side of the House, we value investments in healthcare. We value investments in jobs. We value investments in the Canadian Armed Forces, and we value investments in housing. This is irony and hypocrisy on full display when the member stands up advocating for more money for housing before he votes against a budget that has record investments in housing. On this side of the House, we're going to listen to Canadians, make the investments and improve their quality of life. I wish for once the Conservatives could do the same.
Honourable Member for Skeena-Bulkley Valley.
Premier Eby says the court decided not to provide Richmond homeowners with notice of the Cowichan court litigation, but the Cowichan lawyers said the judge in the case said the parties were free to provide notice of this litigation to private landowners years ago. This includes Canada as represented by the Attorney General. Canada has been and still is missing in action. Why is the Prime Minister being so quiet at a time when people are anxious about their homes and looking for answers?
Minister for Crown Indigenous Relations.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Canada disagrees with the BC Supreme Court's ruling and appealed it on September 8th. Further legal clarity is required to address the decision, particularly relating to private property rights. British Columbia, the City of Richmond, Musqueam Indian Band, and Tsawwassen First Nation have also appealed. We will continue to work collaboratively with all parties to uphold the principles of reconciliation, transparency, and legal responsibility to all parties. We remain available for dialogue with the other parties to the litigation throughout this process. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
For Skeena-Bulkley Valley.
And in the meantime, there's chaos and panic in BC. Everybody's complaining. And everybody's blaming each other. The public is blaming Richmond Council. Premier Eby is blaming the court. And this government continues to stay quiet. That was only the second time I've heard this government say anything about that. The first one was made by a staffer. It's always been the Crown's duty to deal with rights and title. That's clear in the 2004 court case, the Haida court case. Does the Prime Minister have any statements to make to Canadian citizens regarding the Cowichan ruling?
The Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We did make an announcement in September on this, and we remain available to work with all parties to address this matter. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable Member for Richmond Centre Marpole.
Mr. Speaker, homeowners in Richmond are sounding the alarm. The Cowichan court ruling undermines the principle of private property ownership, and many fear their homes and business are at risk. The Liberal government saw this coming and did nothing. No explanation, no assurance, no leadership, and they still remain silent. Richmond's left in the dark. Families are anxious, investors are pulling back, and confidence in our communities is crumbling. Why won't this Liberal government stand up to defend property rights in Richmond and soon across Canada?
Here, here. The Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As I just said to the other member, Canada has disagreed with the BC Supreme Court's ruling and appealed it on September 8th. We remain available for dialogue with the other parties to the litigation throughout this process. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Bowmanville, Oshawa North.
Mr. Speaker, Liberals have banned the vast majority of nicotine pouches for sale in Canada, despite the fact that many Canadians use these products to help quit smoking. Canadians just want to go to the corner store, the gas station, wherever cigarettes are sold, and choose an alternative product. Even the Neighbourhood Pharmacy Association of Canada agrees. So when will these Liberals do the right thing? When will these Liberals free the Zin?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Health.
Mr. Speaker, our government remains firmly committed to reducing smoking rates, especially among youth. While nicotine pouches may have a role in adults who are trying to quit smoking, evidence shows they're not risk-free. These products contain nicotine, which is addictive and can harm the developing brain. That's why clear guidelines are in place to ensure they're used appropriately and not marketed or flavored in ways that attract youth. Our priority is protect the health of Canadians and especially our next generation, Mr. Speaker.
For Bowmanville, Oshawa North.
The very same government that likes to push so-called safe supply drugs into our communities now wants to point out nicotine as a problem for adult usage. Mr. Speaker, Health Canada set a target for 2035. They would reduce the number of Canadians smoking to less than 5%. This government should have no excuses for making alternatives to cigarettes available wherever cigarettes are sold. Corner stores, gas stations, wherever. The question remains, when will the Liberals do the right thing? When will they free the Zin?
The Honourable Minister of International Trade.
Mr. Speaker, speaking of young people, the first new medical school in the GTA in over 100 years in Brampton, Mr. Speaker. It's happening with a $25 million investment in Budget 2025. This government is stepping up to support the new TMU Medical School to train the next generation of doctors in Brampton. This is how we're empowering young Canadians across the country, Mr. Speaker. This is how we build Brampton and Canada strong.
Nice. The honourable member for Red Deer.
Mr. Speaker, under this Liberal government, it's easier for Canadians to continue smoking than quit. Since former Liberal Health Minister Mark Harlan launched his personal crusade against cigarette alternatives, everything we've heard from this government is smoke and mirrors. While nicotine pouches are banned from pharmacies, cigarettes can be bought anywhere. It makes no sense. So instead of blowing more smoke, will the minister finally give Canadians a real chance to quit and free the Zin?
The Honourable Secretary of State for Sport.
Mr. Speaker, addiction is a serious issue, and these Conservatives are making it blatantly political, which is wrong, Mr. Speaker. Look, nicotine, regardless of where people can access it, causes addiction to nicotine. These Conservatives should be absolutely ashamed of themselves, Mr. Speaker. We have produced good numbers on nicotine and cigarette reductions, Mr. Speaker. We continue to be there to improve the health of Canadians and make sure that these are available at the appropriate time and never for children. Never for children.
The Honourable
Député de Madawaska.
The Honourable Member for Madawaska-Restigouche. Mr. Speaker, as a proud Acadian and a representative of Madawaska-Restigouche.
Calm down. Fridays are usually quiet. This must be a special day today. The Honourable Député.
The Honourable Member for Madawaska-Restigouche. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As a proud Acadian representing Madawaska-Restigouche in this House, I care deeply about the vitality.
Bring in the GIMP.
Of Francophone communities. Between 2020 and 2024, there was a strong increase in the number of Francophone permanent residents admitted outside Quebec. To ensure the vitality of our communities, this trend must continue. As we celebrate National Francophone Immigration Week, I would like to ask the Minister to explain how the new immigration levels plan will help support the demographic growth of Francophone communities across Canada. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
de l'immigration et des...
The Honourable Minister of Immigration, Refugees and Citizenship. I would like to thank my colleague for his dedication. In 2023 and in 2024, we surpassed our target for French-speaking permanent residents outside Quebec. Today, as we stabilize overall permanent resident numbers, we are projecting to take in over 30,000 Francophones per year over the next 3 years, while constantly increasing our annual target for Francophone immigration. That is how we will reach our target for 12% Francophone immigration, and how we will strengthen communities everywhere.
Member for Calgary Nose Hill.
Mr. Speaker, non-citizen Daniel Abraham was convicted for criminally abusing his dog, Simba. Abraham repeatedly punched and kicked Simba, tied him to a pole so high his front legs dangled off the ground. Simba couldn't lie down or sit and was left crying and yelping. Yet Abraham remains in Canada with no deportation guarantee. That's disgusting. Why hasn't the immigration minister strengthened the Immigration Refugee Protection Act to make sure non-citizens convicted of serious crimes like Simba's abusers are swiftly deported?
The Honourable Minister of Public Safety.
Mr. Speaker, Canada has a robust system of removals and inadmissibility that enables us to take action, Mr. Speaker. I will commit to the member opposite to look into it and get back to her, but what the circumstances behind the incident that she refers to is abhorrent, and I condemn it wholeheartedly, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Calgary Nose Hill.
The problem is, Mr. Speaker, we have an immigration minister that's so weak, she won't even stand up and answer questions to this. I asked about the Immigration Refugee Protection Act. She won't stand up. So I'll ask again. That case is so disgusting. We've had so many cases like this. Serious criminals, non-citizens who need to be deported. Will she stand up and commit to strengthening the Immigration Refugee Protection Act to make sure that these non-citizens who are convicted of serious crimes are actually deported?
Hear, hear. The Honourable Minister of Citizenship, Refugees, Immigration, Refugees and Citizenship.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On this side of the House, we are delivering for Canadians every day. This government's highest priority is the safety and security of Canadians. Let me be clear, a foreign national who's been convicted of a crime is inadmissible to Canada. We will work with the IRB, we work with CBSA, we work with CSIS, we work with the RCMP to ensure that we deport anyone that needs to be deported. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable Member for Calgary Nose Hill.
Except for a Pakistani national who was convicted of raping his niece, who came into Canada while being on the UK sex offender list, or Simba's abuser here. This government doesn't take this seriously. In fact, it's so bad, Mr. Speaker, that this week the Liberals admitted that they didn't even know how many convicted criminals, they gave citizenship to. Wow. Seriously, they put that in an order paper question. So I'll give her one more opportunity here. How many citizenships did the minister issue to criminals in Canada? Because her department couldn't answer this week.
The Honourable Minister.
Just to interrupt quickly, Michelle Rempel-Garner is growing, in my opinion. She is becoming a more dominating force in the House Commons. I wasn't sure how to receive Michelle Rempel-Garner. I had to watch and trust and do some research. She's a sharp woman, fighting for Canadians, I believe. Prove me wrong.
Mr. Speaker, let me be clear. Foreign nationals who are convicted of a crime are inadmissible to Canada. On this side of the House, we take the safety and security of all Canadians very seriously, and we act. We work with our RCMP and our policing partners in CBSA to ensure that we act in accordance with the law and the IRPA regulation and act. Thank you very much.
The Honourable Member for Saanich Gulf Islands.
Mr. Speaker, while many Canadians are looking at the $78 billion deficit number in this budget, many others are, well, concerned about that deficit, wondering about our children and our grandchildren and the growing ecological deficit from lack of action on climate, lack of action to protect nature, We look at this budget and want to weep. Those of us who are grandparents and seniors right across this country, young people want to know, will this government step up and tackle the generational ecological deficit?
The Honourable Minister of Finance.
For a very important question and our advocacy, Mr. Speaker. In the throne speech, we said we must fight climate change, and our new climate competitiveness strategy includes measures to reduce emissions, including by strengthening the industrial carbon pricing, incentivizing investments to reduce carbon, and mobilizing private capital. We're also creating a new youth Climate Corps, Mr. Speaker, to empower young people in the fight against climate change. We are committed to predicting nature by halting and reversing nature and biodiversity loss through reinforced efforts to conserve 30%.
The Honourable Member for Nanaimo Ladysmith.
Have introduced the most costly and largest budget deficit in history outside of COVID. It'll drive up the cost of food, housing, and everything else that Canadians buy. In Nanaimo Ladysmith, food bank use is up and donations are down, in part because those who formerly supported these services now increasingly need to use them to make ends meet. Liberals had the chance to lower food costs for Canadians by scrapping the industrial carbon tax, but they increased it instead, driving up the cost of everything needed to grow our food. Why is this Prime Minister making food more expensive?
Honourable Minister for Crown and Indigenous Relations.
Jobs, housing, and infrastructure. That's what this budget has, including through our investment and commitment to accelerating the additions to reserve process. In October, I was in Nanaimo celebrating with the Nanaimaks First Nation the addition of 195 acres. With this, the First Nation is looking to build a 2.3 mixed-use development. 2.3 billion, Mr. Speaker. That's great housing for youth and for everyone on reserve. That's great jobs during construction and after on reserve. We look forward to working with First Nations to accelerate more additions to reserve. We hope all parties will support this and the budget. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Rosemont-La Petite Patrie. Mr. Speaker, there is a lot wrong with this Liberal budget, but the climate plan has become a sinister farce at a time when our shared house is burning down. No more emission reductions targets for 2030. No more cap for the oil and gas sector. The climate strategy amounts to a few tax credits for critical minerals and carbon capture. So, subsidies for mining and oil companies. How can the Liberals call this a generational budget when it ignores the fate of future generations? The Honourable Minister of the Environment and Climate Change. Let us be clear, Mr. Speaker. Our government will continue to fight climate change. We will do this through a whole-of-government effort. In our budget, we strengthen the industrial carbon pricing and methane regulations. We will put in place clean fuel regulations. And if the member wants to talk about tax credits, yes, we will offer tax credits for clean electricity because that is good for all Canadians, including Quebecers.
Alberni.
Mr. Speaker, friendship centres are lifelines for Indigenous people in urban communities, providing food, housing, safety, culture, and belonging. The urban Indigenous population is growing rapidly, and friendship centres are already stretched past the breaking point. Their core funding runs out in March. Budget 2025 offered nothing. Without stable, permanent funding, programs will be cut and doors will close. This is not reconciliation. It is abandonment. When will this government commit to renewing this critical funding to support Indigenous peoples with long-term, secure and stable funding?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Indigenous Services.
Mr. Speaker, we put Indigenous children, families and essential services first. This new government is innovating to better serve Canadians by improving efficiencies and coordinating across all departments. But the federal government has a distinct duty to Indigenous people and a key opportunity to strengthen a renewed, respectful relationship. That's why the priority in Budget 2025 is to protect critical services like water, housing and infrastructure in community and to ensure that changes made strengthen service delivery.
Hear, hear.
This concludes question period for today.
Alors,
Point of order?
Yes, a point of order.
Mr. Speaker, I am asking for unanimous consent to redo my SO 31 due to an
Does the honourable does the House give unanimous consent for the member to redo? Yes. Okay. The member may redo his statement.
Mr. Speaker, this week the Liberal government released its 10th budget, the costliest deficit outside of COVID, and double what the Prime Minister's predecessor left behind. The Prime Minister broke every promise that he made. He promised to keep the deficit at $62 billion, a level the parliamentary budget officer had already called unsustainable, yet it has now ballooned to nearly $80 billion. He said it would lower the debt to GDP ratio, but both debt and inflation are rising. He promised to spend less, but added $90 billion more. That is $5,400 in extra inflationary spending per household. Families in London are paying the price. Groceries, gas, rent, and mortgages keep climbing while paychecks fall further behind. Canadians already spend more on debt interest than on health care. The budget at this time is simply irresponsible. Mr. Speaker, Conservatives stand for an affordable budget and an affordable life. Londoners deserve hope, homes, and a future they can afford. Thank you.
All right, gang. We're going to wrap it up right there. My name's Aaron. This is Canadian Looney. We cover Canadian federal politics here. We do a daily live show about Question Period, but we have what I think is the best pre-show. I work really hard on it to find those clips to show people like what happened between the last Question Period and the one that we're about to watch. The committees I find more interesting than the House of Commons most of the time. You get to see and get to know the politicians a bit more. I don't know. Let me know in the comments. Let me know what you think about the pre-show, what we can do to improve that. I've got some ideas. I'd like to thank everybody for tuning in and watching here. There's lots of places you can watch this trash, but we have the best time here. We've got a great community. Our chat room is fun. Anybody that's just watching, I would recommend trying out the chat. You will be identified. We'll say hello. Like, unless you're coming in trying to tell us like the same thing as these bullshit liberals, you'll like be a part of the gang. It's as simple as that. These are Canadians that are frustrated, that want change, that are tuned in to what is going on. They know the politicians. They know the scandals and scams. And also, they're probably living challenging lives day to day because, like, I know myself, I don't care much about money, but money is tighter than it used to be. Not trying to get anything from you there. I just want a subscription. But that is it. My name's Aaron. Thank you very much, Kirk, for your help this week. The moderator team is amazing here. Kirk is the captain, no doubt about that. And it's been growing. We're working really hard here. I spend many hours a week, like 12 hours a day, 7 days a week. We go at this. And again, I'm trying to learn from myself, but I'll share that with the people that are interested in learning about what is going down in Canadian federal politics. I think we have an interesting way of doing it here. We're not going to try to sell you some stupid sticker or push memberships on you, any of that stuff. If you'd like to do that, sure, it helps a brother out. I'm looking for subscriptions and regular viewers and people just to know what is actually happening in the front line of Canadian federal politics, because they have the news, but that's not what they report on. They don't tell you what happened in politics. They take some clips and make their own narrative and try to dupe Canadians into thinking the Liberal agenda is something other than pure evil. It's pure evil. They're ruining your future, your grandkids' future, your children's future, your pets' future, it sounds like. It's ridiculous. It's a wild time. It's very frustrating and hard to believe that this would be happening in a place like this. Like growing up, there was nowhere on this planet that I'd rather be than here. By now, after another bad election, I'm getting out. I've got a little bit of, I own a house. I'll sell it and get out of here, go somewhere else. I'm not going to complain and whine and say I'm going to separate because that's never going to happen. They won't let any of these provinces leave. Like Quebec is still saying they're going to leave. They're never going to leave. It doesn't look great on other provinces that say they're going to leave when there really is no plan for that and no support. No army. It does make sense. Blah, blah, blah. Aaron, Canadian Looney, like, share, subscribe, get notified. Thank you all so much for tuning in. I do enjoy the chat room so much. It doesn't just make the shows worth doing, but I seriously enjoy it. Like, it's fun to find that you can just organically grow a community like this of similar-minded people. We still do have common sense. The people that watch my channel do, at least. We'll take that. We're wrapping it up right here, guys. Aaron, Canadian Looney. We'll catch you in Monday's episode. We'll be here at like 2 o'clock, 2:30, about an hour before the question period gets started, to show what else has happened over the weekend. Next week, they're off again, but we will have a live show. We'll be doing that. We'll have content. I assure you that there will be more information to show Canadians. That's it. Again, thank you all so much for watching. Aaron, Canadian Looney. Thank you, Kirk. Thank you, Rhonda. That is it. Maybe we'll catch some of the other moderators in here another time. That is it. We're out, guys. Thank you so much. We are going to do Romper Room this time because I like it. I like Romper Room.
You should do exercise. That's important to our good health. And friends, tomorrow we are going to be visiting with a fisherman who will tell us about his very enjoyable hobby. Now, I would like to see you all through our magic mirror. Romper, bumper, stomper, boo, tell me, do. Magic mirror, please tell me today, did all of my friends have fun at play? I see all of my friends in Alberta. It's nice to see you. And I see Dan and Vivian. I see Marlon and Mona. I see Catherine and Harley. I see Anne and Elizabeth and Jane. I see Bert and Nicole, and I see you too. I hope to see you tomorrow, right here in Romper Room.
Ding dong, knock knock, hey daddy do. Bing bong, tick tock, bebop boom.
Kick off your weekend with exciting CFL action when the Edmonton Eskimos tackle the BC Lions in Vancouver. Tomorrow night at 10:30 on CFTO TV.
Ding dong, knock knock, hey daddy do. Tip tap, pitter pat, granny cat too. Rooty toot, kimble, loopy loo. Boppity stompity, romper room and friends.
You're the best, gang. Thank God it's Friday. Happy weekend, everybody. Have a good one. We'll check you out on Monday. We're back. Same time, same place. That's it. Aaron, Canadian Looney. Like, share, subscribe. We'll catch you in the next video. Ciao for now.